Okay, we are at 10 o'clock. Again, good morning. So we'll get started. Great to see a bunch of people already signed on. Again, this is David Zach. I'm President and CEO of the Tiffin-Seneca Economic Partnership. And I, together with all the other surrounding counties, have gotten together in the Chamber of Commerce to bring you this webinar with the Small Business Administration. We have today Ray Graves, who has a tremendous amount of experience in working to help businesses obtain SBA financing, and for the last several years he's actually been with the SBA, and he's out of our Cleveland office, and he's going to be talking about some access to capital for small businesses in this difficult time. We have a question section, so I'm going to be trying to field those questions. Please feel free to ask them, and I will be so one question already is, will we have access to the PowerPoint? We'll make that available, and we'll be recording this as well. So, yep, we will be doing that. So thanks, Nick. Got your question there. So we'll either be answering it verbally or on the chat screen. So, okay. With that, Ray, I'm going to hand it over to you to kick things off.
Okay, perfect. David, thank you so much for inviting me to come and talk a little bit about what SBA's got going on. It sounds like the first question that was asked is like the most common question. Can we get the slides? Yeah, of course. I'll send those over to David, and he can distribute them. Recording is fine as well. The other question that folks are going to ask a lot about, which we should probably just get through right now before we even go through the rest of the presentation, is can I comment on anything that's pending legislation right now? So the CARES Act, and there's other stuff that's been talked about, loan forgiveness programs and the like. And the answer to the question of these new things that are in bill form is I can't comment on it, and I don't think anyone should be commenting on it until such time as the bill becomes signed into law, and then the agency and other agencies of the government have time to process the new law and to put out regulations and procedures on it, because things can change between a bill and between the conference with the other house, between the signing of the law, and then once the law is actually passed, the agencies involved have to figure out how to actually implement this, and sometimes there are problems with implementation. So just be very aware that when you're looking at the news and reading the speculation about this stimulus bill and what's in it, you have to know it's not real yet until it really officially becomes real, until the actual agencies involved, like the SBA, release authoritative information about it. Many CPA firms and lenders and others are going to be rushing to provide the best, most current information to clients, and they really want to show that they are really on top of it and they really know what they're talking about. And in their zeal to be really topical and relevant, sometimes they provide information that in fact is not correct or gets outdated the minute after they put it out there. So just be aware of where you're getting the information and how authoritative it is, and whether it's actual or whether it's just, hey, this is what's in a bill and this is, this might happen. Okay, so that's the first thing. With that, let's go ahead and talk about what is real right now, which is this Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. I'm going to attempt to advance a slide here. David, can you see the most recent slide? Is that coming up for everybody?
It's coming up for me. Some people are saying they're not able to hear sound. So,
all right.
I got Barn, Chad. Is everybody else able to hear the sound? Just want to hold on for 1 second. So, a couple people. Okay, so no, well, Mark, I got somebody saying they can hear the sound. So a bunch of people are saying yes. So no, I don't think so. Okay, so most people are saying yes. For Chad, I think Chad was having some problems. So Steve, if it's something's going on, we'll have this recorded. You can hear it at the end. If you ask your questions in chat, you may be on the road, but if you can put your question in and like you texted me, if you have one, I'll be happy to do it. I'm sorry, you can't hear anything. We'll be recording it and you'll be able to get it later. So I'm sorry, it doesn't look like there's anything special for yours, and this is the first time we've used that technology. So we got most people being able to hear it. So go ahead, Ray. Yeah, I can see your
Okay.
screen. If anybody,
All right.
go ahead.
Good. Okay. So what is the economic injury disaster loan? The economic injury disaster loan is our current off-the-shelf product that we had ready to go when this disaster struck. So it's what we've got right now. There will be other tools coming down the pike. I am confident of that. We just should be responsible and to hold off on any speculation on what those tools will be until, as I said, they're actually signed into law and become effective with the agencies that are involved. The program we have right now is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That's the same program that was available for folks who had hurricane problems, or they had a tornado, or they had flooding. This is the product that's available, and these loans are working capital loans. They are economic injury loans, working capital loans that a business can use to pay for expenditures that they would have been able to pay but for this disaster. So think of your fixed costs associated with keeping your business viable. It could be things like rent, utilities, insurance. It could be payroll to a limited extent, or really to the extent that you need. It could be accounts payable or any of those sorts of fixed costs that you have month to month that you need to pay that you can't pay anymore because you don't have any revenue coming in. So eligible to apply includes all small businesses, and small businesses in our context is based on a NAICS code standard. NAICS code is the National Industrial Classification System, or North American Industrial Classification System, and you can find that online with a quick Google search, SBA NAICS code size standards, to see if your business is small. Now, pretty much everybody, if you think you're small, you're going to be small, because the size standards are like $35 million for hotels and maybe 750 employees for a manufacturer, but we just to make sure that you're under the large corporate standards, that you are a small business. Small agricultural cooperatives, but not farms, would be eligible. Small aquaculture businesses also eligible. And in a departure from what we usually think of as SBA's bailiwick, private not-for-profit corporations or organizations are also eligible as long as they're not religious. And landlords are also eligible for this EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, EIDL program. Again, landlords are also eligible for this. So those are a couple of departures from SBA's typical practices. Small businesses, ag cooperatives, aquaculture businesses, most private not-for-profit corporations, and landlords, all eligible for an EIDL relief loan. You must be directly affected by the disaster, and you must be located in the disaster area. The second of those two should not be a problem for anybody, because all of Ohio is in one of these economic injury disaster loan areas. And affected by the disaster, again, that's going to be many, many, many different types of businesses. I guess there are a few that are doing well still, grocery stores, pharmacies, medical device companies, and the like. But many, many others are clearly, obviously, directly affected by the crisis. All right, let's advance another slide. So economic injury disaster loan terms. The maximum loan amount is up to $2 million. The rates are 3.75% for small businesses and 2.75% for not-for-profits. The term is really where the action is here, because you've got a year of deferred payment and you have a 30-year amortization, typically, to pay the loan back, which means your monthly payment is going to be very, very affordable. You got a year where you're not making any payments, and then you've got 30 years to pay the thing back without a prepayment penalty. So it is a loan, and there is an interest rate associated with it, but you got a long, long time to pay these things back, which is really great, especially for a working capital loan. So how can you use the funds? Again, like I said before, fixed debt payments, payroll, accounts payable, other bills. It's pretty loose, but think of it in terms of a get me over loan for a certain event time horizon. Whether your business is going to be adversely affected for 6 months or 12 months or whatever you think, you're going to want to talk to your assigned loan officer and say, hey, look, I need rent and utilities and minimal payroll for this event horizon, and this is the amount of the award that I'm looking for. But that said, SBA is looking at so many of these, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the award amounts that are being given are related to a function of your 2019 financials, rather than spending a lot of time with each individual business determining a particular need. This is an unprecedented disaster, and so there might be some automation in our process to try and get the money out as quickly as possible. So keep that in mind. The amount of the award, think of it more like a credit card situation. You might be remembering when you apply for a credit card, you put in your information, and then the credit card company kind of comes back with, here's what your limit is, rather than you applying for a certain limit. EIDLs are kind of the same way. The agency is going to determine your award and then provide it back to you based on the financial information that you have and your discussions with your loan officer. These loans aren't going to be used for dividend payments, disbursements to owners, repayment of stockholder loans, except maybe injections that you're putting into your business to keep it afloat, facility expansion, refinancings, physical damage, or payment of federal debt. Again, think of it in terms of a get me over loan that's working capital for a defined period for fixed payments that you have to make in order to keep the business running. All right, going to slide 4. Economic injury disaster loan terms, continued. What are the collateral requirements for one of these? I have seen some people ask questions like, oh, I'm not going to get this loan if I don't have collateral. Well, lack of collateral is not a reason we're going to decline one of these loans. We do have a collateral requirement, which says for deals over $25,000, we're going to take what collateral we can get. For deals under $25,000, it'll just be a signature basis. So a personal guarantee either way is going to be required. Unless it's a not-for-profit, in which case likely not a personal guarantee would be required, but any for-profit business would have to have some guarantee. On deals over $25,000, you should also expect a lien on probably whatever real estate the individual or the company owns. Moving on to slide 5. Basic filing requirements for an EIDL loan include an application form, Form 5 or 5C. A 5C would be for a sole proprietorship. So if you are paying your taxes for your business through your IRS 1040 or personal tax return, you're likely a sole proprietorship or maybe a one-person LLC. And in that case, we'd recommend you use the Form 5C. If you're a corporation, an S Corp or a C Corp or an LLC, you should be using the Form 5. IRS 4506T transcript requests for the applicant, principals, and affiliates also required. So that's a form that you'll download and then re-upload. Business federal income tax return, at least one. Hopefully you've got your 2019 done, but if you don't have your 2019 done, then you're going to upload the most recent financial year end that you have, and you're uploading your federal income tax return for 2018. Schedule of liabilities, personal financial statement, SBA form 1368. So these are just some of the basic forms that the online portal is going to have you download and sign and fill out and upload again. And if you have questions about sort of how to fill them out, not all of us know how to fill out a personal financial statement or a schedule of liabilities. I would refer you to your local small business development center or SCORE representative to get those sorts of common sense questions answered. You can also, of course, call my office, but we're fairly busy, and we try to rely on our resource partners locally in the small business development centers to help you just understand sort of what the terminology is on some of these forms. And moving on to slide 6. Slide 6 is additional filing requirements. Other information that may be requested and probably should upload right away as you're filling out this thing would be your most recent personal tax return for all the principals and a year-end financial statement. If your 2019 business tax return is still not done, tell your accountant to hustle up and get it done, or else go ahead and upload the compilation or other financial statements that you have. And let's imagine that your fiscal year end is, say, September of last year. Well, in that case, you should go ahead and upload that tax return, but also upload a current interim financial statement, say within the last 90 days or so. And that could be an internal statement or, again, a compilation from your accountant or something like that. On slide 7, ineligible entities include farms, religious organizations, gambling concerns, casinos and racetracks, speculative entities, SBA loan packagers, lobbyists, real estate developers, and concerns that have credit available elsewhere. And let's just take a second to think about that credit elsewhere bullet point at the very bottom. I'm aware that a lot of the messaging on this has said, businesses with credit elsewhere aren't eligible for an EIDL loan. So what do we mean by credit elsewhere? This is my advice to you. If your business is adversely affected by this crisis and you're having concerns that you're not going to be able to make ends meet, you should apply. Don't worry about the credit available elsewhere thing. If you've got a line of credit from a bank, that's fine. If you have good credit, that's fine. I urge you to just apply. Again, with two qualifications, if you're adversely affected by the COVID crisis and you're having concerns that you're not going to be able to stay in business, or you're concerned that you might not have the ability to make payments, apply. How to apply. So the preferred method for application is disasterloan.sba.gov. I am aware that that portal was down yesterday or the day before as we improved the interface, but as of this morning it was up, and I would urge you to use it. It's a simplified website now, and it's asking you to download documents and upload them into a box and submit. I would get everything together, upload it all at once, and then submit through that, rather than using it sort of like multiple distinct submissions of different documents. Paper loan applications can also be sent in to an address in Fort Worth, Texas, if you must, but we recommend the online system, and we recommend that you are using the online system after the hour of 7 o'clock, because the burden on the system seems to go down right around that time. So, you certainly can use it now if it's up and running, but I would say it might be most expeditious to use it after 7 to avoid overburdening the system. SBA has a customer service center at 800-659-2955. I'll repeat that again slowly. Service center at 800-659-2955. And you can call the disaster folks directly at that number, or email them at disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. Again, that's disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. I have been told wait times have been extremely long for obvious reasons. Also been told on the weekend they were answering calls and there was no wait time at that point. So bear in mind, it appears that we're open on the weekends for that customer service center number as well. Missing information is the biggest cause of delay, so try to fill out the forms as completely as you can. I know that when you're looking at these forms, the Form 5 and the 5C, they do reference from time to time physical disaster, because typically we've been responding to physical disasters like hurricanes and tornadoes and flooding and hail and all that kind of stuff. That's your typical reason why these forms are used. But in this space, it's used for the economic injury as well. So if you don't have an answer for a physical damage thing, then just leave that blank and move on to the next thing and go ahead and submit. We understand. Again, the portal that you're looking at or looking for one of the applications here is disasterloan.sba.gov. Again, disasterloan.sba.gov. You click on the blue button there to apply, and all of Ohio is a disaster area for these economic injury loans, so you'll be eligible. This is the quick screenshot here on slide 11 of what the portal looks like today. As you can see, it's instructing you to apply for an EIDL loan by downloading the forms, filling in your information, and uploading the forms. I see no reason why, if you don't want to upload a narrative as well, talking about what's happening with your business, you can do that. But I would keep it very, very brief, because remember, we have literally thousands of these things to go through. I mean, tens of thousands likely. And I don't want a loan officer to have to read a book about your particular situation. But if there is something that needs particular discussion, certainly I think you could upload a letter as well to that box that you see at the bottom of the screen. You'll see the business loan application, the home or sole proprietorship loan application, the 5C, and the EIDL support loan information, the form P019, are the core forms to upload. Yes, I'm aware that it says home loan application for the 5C. Again, this form is used for physical disasters for homeowners sometimes too. That's why that form is the way it is, but it's for sole proprietors as well. For this economic injury. So I acknowledge that the form might not be exactly topical to you, but it is the form we want. So some frequently asked questions. Are startups eligible? Yes, startups are eligible. They may have a more difficult time sort of justifying their award than someone who's been in business for a couple of years. but they are eligible, and I would urge you to upload the financial information that you've got rather than the last business tax return. You're going to have to make a justification for why you have ongoing expenses that you would have been able to pay that you cannot pay now in order to get an award. How much should you ask for? Well, that's going to be based on your needs. Again, there isn't really a place in these applications to really ask for a particular amount. Think of it again more like a credit card where you're uploading your information and we're going to make a decision based on your award, or there'll be a discussion with your loan officer based on your need. So how do you demonstrate losses? Well, you consider your fixed expenses. It's not a matter of demonstrating that you've had a loss in March. It's more demonstrating that this has affected you, and it's obvious in most cases that it has because you're a restaurant or whatever the case might be. You're closed for business, no one's coming in. I wouldn't spend a lot of thought process on demonstrating losses. I would, if you have losses and you're adversely affected, I would just encourage you, put your information in and apply. And if you feel you need to, upload a letter of explanation as well. What if I don't have enough collateral? As I said, collateral is not a reason for decline, so apply. What do I need to do with my bank? Nothing. This is a direct loan from the federal government. You apply through disasterloan.sba.gov, but you should be in contact with your lender about your situation. You should tell them what's going on with you. If you've got a loan with them, you should be considering a deferment request, especially if it's an SBA-backed loan already. How much does this cost? Well, this is there are no fees, but if appraisal is required, if a real estate lien is required, there might be some filing costs for that. Is there a prepayment penalty? No. I have a lock available or a line of credit available. Is that credit elsewhere? Am I therefore ineligible? No. If you have been adversely impacted by the crisis and you're concerned about making your payments, apply. You can reach me directly at 216-522-4192. Again, that's 216-522-4192 or raymond.graves@sba.gov. I do a lot of webinars, so you might not be able to reach me on the first time, but there's lots of other help through our office as well. You can reach our office number at 216-522-4180. There's Mark and Tom and Tim and Jim and Patsy and lots of folks there that can help answer your questions. As I said, there's also an 800 number that you can call to get directly in touch with our disaster folks. You may have better luck getting in touch with us locally, and we can help you as best as we can. David, I am done with the presentation. Did you have any questions that came through that you wanted to ask me now before we?
Yeah, we had a lot. Yeah, okay. So the first question we had was from Christy, who is asking, as an LLC with owners not taking a paycheck, the loss of income affects owners' personal expenses too. Should those expenses be listed on an SBA loan application as well?
So Christy's question is, should we be putting in the payroll for owners that haven't been taking salary? Again, I think when you look at these forms and see what they say, I'm not sure that there's like a special place in there where we're asking you to specifically quantify specific expenses. I think it's a conversation you may have with a loan officer, or they may just automate this and say, hey, your award is this, percentage of last year's sales or gross profits or something. But if I was in your shoes and I was applying, I probably would put in just like a cover sheet talking about my general payroll expenses and the time horizon that I think I'm going to be affected. And I would kind of leave it at that. This EIDL program isn't supposed to be replacing, high levels of officer salary, but we understand that officers, need to get their salaries as well to make ends meet personally, and reasonable expenses in there for that, I think, are going to make sense. I don't think in a situation where we're trying to approve tens of thousands of these, I don't think we're going to be too specific about the exact uses of proceeds of the funding. So I don't know, David, is that enough of an answer there? Or I hope that's enough of an answer. I'm thinking you're going to get an award and use it responsibly.
Yeah, 1 second. Working on. Christy, I put you on. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I'm kind of stumbling on that because I don't want people to be applying for an EIDL and then just dropping it into their personal financial statement. I mean, that would be kind of fraudulent. It should be the amount necessary to keep the business going, and we acknowledge that some of that may be for personal expenses. All right, go on.
Okay, the next question is from David Alexander. When there is time to answer, would a private equity fund backed company be eligible, assuming a need within the terms noted exists?
Affiliation is a thing that is true on this, and what I mean by affiliation is we want to make sure businesses are small by SBA standards, and we include in that small definition not only the business but any affiliated businesses as well. And affiliation is normally described as a function of control. If one entity controls another, or a third party has the ability to control both, then those entities are considered affiliated. So if your firm has private equity backing and their level of ownership in your business, or through other means of control, through, for example, for their ability to sign on behalf of the business or make decisions on behalf of the business, rises to a certain level, then they would be considered an affiliate of your business. And since they're going to be larger than you, most likely you would be considered an affiliate of theirs, in other words. And so the size standard applicable could be the NAICS code for private equity firms, and very likely you'd be considered a large business by virtue of that equity control. So I guess my answer to your question is it's entirely possible that you would be considered affiliated with that private equity firm, and that could give you problems for eligibility with this. If you have a specific situation that you want to run by anyone, I would recommend calling that 800 disaster number and running by your specific information to them, or just go ahead and apply and upload a sheet saying, you know, I talked to my private equity partners, and although they've got, you know, $50 million of sales, you know, or revenue in the bank or whatever, they're not willing to help me. And this is why I think I should, you know, still be able to be considered a small business for this program, and specifically talk about whether they have the ability to control your business and their level of ownership in you. It's, I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's going to be a tougher application because you might not be considered a small business at that point if you have that private equity backing. This is a program that's supposed to be for small businesses, and that's what it is.
David, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Again, just kind of, we've had several questions on that item. We've got some PE firms out there that have some investments, and they're seeing the same trials and tribulations. But yeah, I get it completely. It's the small business criteria. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm respectful of those firms for sure. I know they're in trouble too, and I think they should definitely be encouraged to talk with their partners in the private equity world about resources that may be available from the private equity folks that can help these businesses stay afloat. But they probably need to go there first, and then, you know, if there's other stimulus legislation that comes along that relaxes affiliation rules or is available for these types of firms, or, you know, some kind of funding for private equity firms because maybe they need some kind of extra stimulus or support, that's great. But that's not the program I'm talking about today.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is from Kimberly Spencer. Are you eligible if you've been only open for 8 months?
Yes.
Okay, that answered that one. Next question is, what's the best strategy? Wait for the CARES Act loan or apply for the disaster loan? Which one will be easier to get approved? Which one will provide a bigger loan? Does one preclude the other? That's from Will Young.
William, you must have jumped on the line late. my first jumping up on my soapbox.
Well, some of these
on the blue
questions,
screen
in all
was,
fairness to
yeah.
Ray, in all fairness to Will, some of these questions, I'm trying to manage the questions, so I'm not, you know, so he asked it early on in fairness to Will, but if you
William,
want to
you have asked a fantastic question. I love the question. I'm not going to answer the question because I can't comment on bills that haven't been passed into law. I can't comment on laws that haven't been internalized by the bureaucracy and notices provided. I'm sure there's lots of you know, folks out there who will provide a hot take and, you know, give you some advice based on the preliminary, you know, preliminary language in the bill, but that's not me. So I'm going to just say I can't answer that. Don't have any information about new legislation coming out.
A couple more questions from Will. What are the typical loan amounts approved? What is the loan approval rate, and how long is the turnaround time?
I don't know the typical, those are great questions. The questions were, what are the typical award amounts? What's the approval rate? And what is the time frame? Great questions. I understand why you're asking them. I just would be lying if I said I knew. My guess is that the typical award amounts are probably under 500,000. This is speculation. Probably I shouldn't even be speculating, but that's my guess. As far as the approval rate, I have no information. And my boss at the district said it's too preliminary to even ask the question, because we've had this portal open for about a week and we've had some failures in the portal, and we're just starting to get approvals out the door on it. So, who knows how this will stabilize? Like, the approval rate right now is based on a whole bunch of people in the queue, and we haven't approved a ton of loans. We're just starting to get the money out. There are definitely some folks that have been declined, sometimes based on really, really poor personal credit. Someone who has shown no ability to repay in the past, and who has had many creditors that have been left holding the bag in the past, have been declined for these things. So ability to repay is the thing. I mean, you have to have some level of assurance that, even some baseline minimal level of assurance that the federal government and taxpayers are going to get paid back eventually, even after 30 years. So that's a thing. And the last question was the time frame. Again, I apologize, and I feel like a dunce for saying this, but I just don't have information as far as the time frame. I know that some approvals have been coming out, some fundings have been moving forward. We've only had this open for about a week or so, and there have been some down outages in that time frame. And so what I'm telling people is not to expect funding certainly before 30 days of your application. I would expect a call back from a loan officer from us within 3 weeks, and then processing time thereafter. And that's what I'm saying is my expectation for the moment, until I do get more direction from headquarters.
Will, did that answer your questions? Okay. Next question. Thanks, Will, for all those great questions. Next question is from David. Startups are eligible, but does the company already have to be established? Can brand new companies that do not yet have employees apply?
You can certainly apply. Like I said before, I think it's just going to be a little bit of a tougher lift for the agency to figure out whether or how much of an award to give you. And I would recommend to someone who's in that situation to upload a narrative document saying why you have fixed, or what your fixed expenses are that you have that you would have been able to pay, but you cannot pay because of this crisis. And that could be just referencing your rent or other costs. So yes, you can apply, but you're gonna have to provide the best financial information that you can for us to review.
Dave, did you have a follow-up, or did that answer your questions? You good? Okay. Next question from Dave Spridgen. Can you address the information posted about receiving $10,000 within 3 days of applying? So, yeah.
No. It's a great
I knew that was
question.
gonna
I
be
would
your
ask the
answer,
same
but-
question, and I can't answer it.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks, Dave, for the question. So next question comes from Karen. Our NF non-for-profit organization serves adults with disabilities in healthcare and residential settings. We are affiliated with United Methodist Church. However, we have our own board and are not owned by the church. We do not discriminate in the delivery of services and are primarily Medicaid funded. Will we be excluded as a religious organization because of our affiliation with a denomination?
One of the examples, it's a great question. The question was, does affiliation with a denomination in and of itself rule you out as ineligible? Because I said religious organizations aren't eligible. And I am going to say, I don't think so. I think you would be fine. The evidence I have of that is the Office of Disaster Assistance, when they were doing some of their training for us on this, referenced the YMCA as a potential applicant, and that's the Young Men's Christian Association. So I don't think merely having Christian in the name makes you ineligible as a religious organization. I don't think that would make you ineligible, because I don't think you're teaching religion, and your primary purpose isn't to instruct people on religious belief or indoctrination, or indoctrinating them in a certain belief pattern or anything. So I think you would be fine, and I would encourage you to apply. And if you have issues with that, let me know at the Cleveland District. I would love to hear what's being said. I would encourage you to apply.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay, great. Thank you, Karen. Okay, next question is, I may have missed this, but how can we get a copy of all these slides? We're going to be sending them out to all our, all of our, your local economic development organization in the county will have them. We'll put them up on our website as well at tcepcoronavirus.com. And if you want to, we can try to send it to you individually as well, but contact information is there. Contact your local economic development person. They'll have a copy. So whatever county you're in, contact that person. They will have it. They're going to be your go-to resource. Thanks, Jeff. That was Jeff's question. Next question is from Mark. It was mentioned that this bill will allow SBA to give loans at 0% and they'll be turned into grants. Is this what will be announced? Again, I'm going to go through the question, maybe the same kind of answer, just people want to know more information that's not yet available. But Ray, I'll let you respond.
I can't comment on any legislation that hasn't been passed into law or internalized by the agency, and notice is duly written. I'm a member of the federal agency, so I'm going to be like the last source and hopefully the most authoritative source of information. If you want, the most quickest and possibly the least accurate sources, then there's lots of folks out there that are providing that. I just can't do that.
Okay, I got a question from Shannon. Shannon's asking, what kind of record retention is required for use of the funds?
Okay, question is, what kind of records do you need to keep for use of funds? That is a wonderful question, and first question that anyone's ever had from me on that. I would try to, I guess my answer is I would try to keep good records on what you're using the funds with. My understanding is that when one of these awards is given, there's actually a loan authorization and some closing documents that will be sent to you, likely via email. And I would look hard at that authorization and make sure you're in compliance with it. Those sorts of closing instructions should be available like from your loan officer. Unfortunately, I don't have them at my fingertips, but I would look for documentation with your award and act accordingly.
Aaron, I'd heard it was 3 years, but there's no other definitive guidance than what's going to be coming out in the documents, correct?
It's just I don't know, David. I'm not that steeped in the actual details of it, but I'm very confident that when someone gets an award, they'll be issued a loan authorization that provides further instructions.
Okay. Shannon, do you have any follow-up to the questions you'd like to ask? Or are you good? Okay, moving on. Thank you so much for the question. Next one is, are you eligible if you are an agricultural entity? This is from Scott.
Scott, so the question is, are you eligible if you're an agricultural entity? The deck has just small businesses, agricultural cooperatives. It says farms are not eligible. So it's going to be a little tricky there, whether or not you're eligible for this. I'm not sure exactly what your kind of business is, but even if I knew, I'm not sure I have a definitive answer for you about whether you would be eligible. I would suspect if you're an agricultural entity, you should be looking to the U.S. Department of Agriculture and specifically the Farm Services Agency to see what they have on tap and what kinds of disaster assistance they do before you look to these SBA EIDL loans. So check with your local FSA office to see what kinds of relief you can get from them. and send me an email if they don't have anything, and I will try to get a little bit more clarity on that. That's not a great answer, but it's the answer that I've got.
Dad, do you have any follow-up on that, or are you good? If I hear silence, I'll keep moving, but want to make sure to give you a chance. Okay. Next question comes from Ian. What type of collateral would be required if the business doesn't own their property?
I think we'll take what collateral we can get. So it could be a lien on a personal residence. I know on deals over $25,000, the disaster assistance folks will be looking for what collateral they can get with a preference for real estate. So it could be a personal residence, maybe something else, maybe liens on equipment. That might be more of a case-by-case thing.
Okay. Next question. I'm sorry, I'm working on this. New technology for me. Appreciate everybody's. Ian, do you have any follow-up question to that? I'm trying to let people, if they have a follow-up, ask. Okay. Karen's asking, we have 3 corporations within our business. Should we apply for each corporation, or will one application apply for, will cover the entire business?
The information that I've received, and to sort of state the question, it sounds like there's multiple businesses involved, or at least multiple corporations involved. The information that I've received from disaster assistance is that if someone has multiple entities in unrelated businesses, they should apply separately for each unrelated business. But if they have related businesses, they should apply once for all of their businesses. So if you have, for example, 3 Culver's locations and they're all separately incorporated, you would apply sort of for the holding company, or maybe apply for for all 3 at once. When you're uploading your application, I would definitely in that case include a narrative talking about all 3, and include your 2019 business tax returns for all 3, so that your award is related to your overall level of activity. And when you get in contact with your loan officer, explain that for sure. But again, the information that I've gotten, to make it simple, is you apply for all of your business entities that are related at one time. But if you happen to have 2 unrelated businesses, you would apply separately for them. Like if you have a car dealership and a coffee shop, then you would apply separately for those 2.
All right. Next question. Thank you, Karen, for that question. Nick is asking, can you speak on a business that is using 1099, for example, a Dairy Queen kind of business?
A Dairy Queen business on a 1099? Could you unmute the caller and let's just ask him what he's doing?
Yep, I'm working on that right now. Give me a sec. I don't. Oh, there he is. Nick, go ahead and clarify the question. I got you unmuted now. Sorry for the delay. Nick, are you there? Nick, just checking in one more time before we move on. Okay.
Well, before you move on, David, I'll just address it generically. So, okay. Some businesses, right, they receive 1099s from their employer, let's say, and they report on Schedule C of their 1040. So it's the sole proprietorship tax form on a personal tax return. Like, for example, a soloist for a church might receive a 1099 from the church, and they would report that income on Schedule C. And there's some question about, hey, is this person a sole proprietorship, or are they an employee of the church? And they're sort of in between. The soloist could do work for other churches, and they could, maybe they work 100% of their time for their soloist business, or maybe they've got other employment that's like their real business, and the soloist work is just sort of a hobby, and it's just they do whenever they feel like it. The important thing is that SBA is going to determine whether you're a business kind of based on whether you have ongoing obligations of that business, because that's what the EIDL program is for, whether you have ongoing rent or you have investments on a balance sheet that needs to be paid, like you have a delivery van that you have and that you've got payments on. So think in those terms. If you're a 1099 employee, there's going to have to be some deliberate decision made at the SBA level about whether you're a small business or whether you're not. And again, I just think I would encourage you to apply if you believe you've got ongoing expenses that you would have had the ability to pay that you no longer do have the ability to pay. But if you are just a soloist and you just have some income and odds and ends from singing from occasionally, but you don't really have like payments that you have to make, then I would urge you to maybe not apply. You're probably not eligible. Hopefully that's a fair answer, but it's something that it's sort of in between, and it has to be figured out. David, you might need to mute that person again.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks, Ray. Okay, next question is from Virgil. Can we still expect the 3-week turnaround on 2 months of payroll on the 2 months of payroll loan? Which may
I don't know anything about the payroll loan.
I think he's referring to the new loan. Let me see if he wants to. Virgil, I'm unmuting you if you want to clarify. Okay. You can raise your hand or put another thing in the chat if you want to speak and clarify for me. Next question is, what is the credit score? This is from Mike. What is the credit score that is necessary for approval?
I think ODA, the Disaster Assistance Office, has some like floor threshold for personal credit, which is pretty generous, but they haven't released a specific floor to me, and I would urge you to apply. I think, if you have really, really, really bad personal credit, your chances of being approved are probably pretty low. But I don't have, and they have not released a particular floor for personal credit. I apologize, I don't have that number.
Okay, thanks, Ray. I said if anybody wants to, as opposed to me stopping each time, if you want to engage with Ray in a follow-up, just let me know via the question chat and I'll get you on. Okay, next question is from Mark. I believe, this webinar is going to be recorded and sent out to all the economic development organizations, so you can get it from any one of us. So yes, it will, absolutely. Next question is from Mark. We have not seen the full ramifications of the effects of this disaster. How do we know how much to ask for long term?
The question is sort of what's the time horizon you should be discussing with your loan officer when one contacts you, or you should be considering in a narrative that you upload. And the SBA doesn't really have the answer for you on that either, and it might be different for different businesses as well. I simply don't have that answer. I don't think SBA does. I don't think any of us have that answer, and we just have to make educated guesses, and you should apply for what you think, the length that you think this disaster will affect you. And if you end up underestimating that, you can go back to the SBA for an increase on your existing approval. So, we don't have that answer. You should make an educated assumption, and you should go back to SBA for an increase if you need one.
Okay, great. Next question is, could you talk about, this was someone that joined so a little bit later, did you talk about, Ray, any of the math for calculating the relief amount? This is someone in the hotel business looking for guidance on how you're going to calculate the relief amount.
So I don't have that information. I am under the understanding that to expedite these approvals, that the SBA disaster assistance people may be adjudicating some of these just based on some function related to business activity in the past. But I'm not in a place where I'm able to reveal what that is or make any guesses on it. I just don't have that information.
Okay, thank you so much. Another question from Anuraj is, Is there any news about potentially the lowering of interest rates from 3.75% to something lower than that?
Nope, I don't have any information on that.
Okay. Next question, does it matter if the business hasn't filed their 2019 taxes, or do they need to file their 2019 taxes before applying?
Nope, you don't need to apply your 2019 taxes before applying, but you should definitely upload the best 2019 financial information that you have, whether that's a compilation or whether that's internal statement. I would certainly recommend, if your accountant can hustle up and get you a compilation that you could upload, I think that would be very helpful to your case.
Great, thank you so much, Brian. Next question, can public stocks be taken as collateral?
Can public stocks be taken as collateral? I think SBA's, the guidance to me has been that we prefer, if we're going to take collateral, we prefer real estate. I find it difficult to believe that we would take a lien on stocks. And also the question seems to imply that we would condition our approval based on some collateral requirement. And I would just tell you that lack of collateral isn't going to be a barrier for approval. We'll take what we can get, and I would find it kind of difficult to believe that we would take a lien on public stocks. Most likely we would take a lien on business assets and real estate held by the principals or or the business.
Great, thank you very much. Next question, I'm a real estate investor with credit card debt from some of my rehabs. If I get approved for an SBA loan, can it be put towards those debts?
It can be put towards payments that your business has that you would have been able to pay that you can no longer pay. Real estate developers are typically not eligible for EIDL loans. Landlords would be eligible, but not developers.
Okay. If our collateral is locked up in our original loan, will that affect their ability to go through this process and apply for?
No.
Okay, great. Next question. All right, I've already started filling out the paperwork for the SBA. It's pretty intensive, and my business is like a typical one. I've had to have some lines blank on the form because they didn't apply to me. Will this be an issue for loan approval?
I know that there are some things on the application that are related to like physical disasters, and I think that it's only appropriate to put not applicable on that. So I recognize there might be some things that you don't have to, you wouldn't fill out, but I would urge you in that specific case to maybe reach out to your local small business development center director or counselor or a SCORE member or a mentor to just like take a common sense approach and say, does this apply to me, or what do you think this is asking me? Sometimes people get a little confused about what's being asked, and they end up answering the wrong way. I recognize that, so reach out for some help on specifics of the application to your local support folks. And David, can you reveal who your local small business development center is? Because I don't know exactly who that is. Do you know?
Yeah, and it may be different. I'm gonna allow the whole team who helped put this together to comment. I know for Seneca County, it is the Small Business Development Center out of Terra State, which I think is also from my colleague Beth Hannum. So it's Bill Oxter, who I know is on the line. Bill, I've unmuted, and Beth, that's correct. Bill, who else are you covering out of Terra State? If you are still with us?
Yeah, I can hear you, David. Can you hear me?
Yeah. What area?
Yeah, in addition to Seneca County and Sandusky County, I also cover Ottawa and Erie counties. And any inquiries, if I can be of assistance, just email me at boxter.terra.edu. That's
okay.
These individuals at the SBDCs, they're not experts in this program, but if there are some common sense questions about, hey, I'm not sure I'm answering this right, or does this make sense, I would talk to them first. And yeah, if there's something that doesn't apply to you, then leave it blank and move on and get your application in.
So Greg Moon out of Wyandotte. Greg, who covers you for SBDC?
Right, we're actually not, we don't fall under any of the SBDC's contracts, but I know Bill out of Terra has said he'll work with local businesses for Wyandotte County.
Okay, fantastic. And Renee Smith from Fostoria, you guys cover, you cover 3 different counties. Who's covering Wood and Hancock, Renee, or where are all the Fostoria companies getting handled, out of Terra State, or how does that work for Fostoria?
We're just sending everybody to Terra State.
Okay, perfect. Gary Frankhouse, I don't know if you're on the line. Gary, are you there? Gary's kind of called in, so it may be difficult. I don't know that he's put in the pin, but contact Gary Frankhouse. He'll be able to, Gary's in Crawford County, and he'll be able to guide you to the correct SBDC, so perfect. Okay, I have another question that's come in. If I have a good paying job and I have a business, will I get less funds? This person says they keep a business and they're personal separate. Do you see any issues with that, Ray?
No.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I think we have run out of questions. And so we're about an hour in. Oh, we got one more question that came in, and I think this will be our last question. We'll go to 11 and wrap it up. So David is asking, I have a low amount of collateral since I buy, fix, and sell houses. It's usually a 6-month time frame. Collateral is an issue for me. Am I out of luck for the SBA loan? I think I've learned you're not out of luck if you don't have collateral. But
Yeah,
did I learn correctly?
I don't think someone who flips houses is eligible for one of these.
Okay.
It's considered a speculative business. If you're a landlord, you're eligible. If you're a guy swinging a hammer, if you're like the construction contractor, you're eligible. Someone who is buying and flipping, I think is not eligible for an idle loan.
Okay, that's the last question. I want to give each of the partners in this a chance to address any businesses in their county. So Beth Hannum, I'm going to put you on the spot first. Is there anything you want to communicate to the Sandusky County businesses about resources that you have, or anything you want to make them aware of? Don't have to. Some people are driving too, so I don't want to make it dangerous for them. But okay. Greg, is there anything you want to let your businesses know about down in Wyandotte County?
Yeah, thanks, David. For all these different resources, we're trying to put them in a centralized location on our website for Wyandotte County businesses at wcoed.com. There's a COVID-19 resource page, and we'll be sure to get these slides and the meeting recording up on there as well for anybody in Wyandotte.
Great, thank you. Renee, anything you want the Fostoria area businesses to be aware of?
Much like everyone else, we have on our website a COVID-19 resource page, and our website is www.fostoriaedc.org. And then I just want to encourage anyone in the Fostoria area. I know all of you have my cell phone number. Feel free to use it. Give me a call. We're happy to help in any way that we can.
Perfect, thank you, Renee. And I don't think, okay, so Gary's kind of on, is I think driving and doesn't have the pin, but Gary Frankhouse, I think if you Google Crawford County Economic Development, you will get to Gary, and he would be more than happy to take care of you. So again, I want to express a lot of appreciation to Ray Graves for his time. I know they're just a little bit busy. Ray, are there any final comments that you want to make to our attendees today?
Oh, nope. Just wanted to say thanks to Tiffin-Seneca and all of the surrounding counties that helped put this call together. I am so incredibly grateful for your ability to help us get the word out on these things, and certainly hope to come back in a few weeks or maybe next week to talk about some of the other legislation as soon as we receive information that's authoritative and accurate.
Fantastic. And we're hoping that sooner rather than later. A lot of exciting things coming down the pike. For those businesses in Tiffin and rural Seneca County, you can go to our website at TSEP coronavirus, that's TSEP coronavirus.com, or text the word coronavirus to 474747 and get updates that way. Again, on behalf of all the entire economic development regional team, and I want to thank you for participating, and we'll let you know of anything coming up in the future. Thank you so much.